It's always a delight to be here. Good afternoon and thanks for joining us in today's edition of the program Flipside. My name is Daisy Obaisiagun. Some weeks ago we talked about rape, but we dealt with all the legal aspects of it. So we had the topic rape, a lawyer's perspective. But today we're going to be talking about rape, a psychiatrist's perspective. We're going to be looking at all the psychological areas of it because you really cannot talk about rape without looking at this aspect of rape. Up until 1970s, rape was not really reported in the media. It was a very hush-hush topic. And even when people talk about it, the victims were more blamed. They were even seen as the guilty party much more than the rapists. But rape is a terrible crime that the effects it has on the victims and the families can never really be overemphasized. It's terrible. And I have a psychiatrist in the house today with me to talk about rape. So for everyone who's been through sexual assault or sexual situation and you don't really know what to call it, was I raped? Was I not raped? Was I just abused? What exactly is the difference? And all the many questions you might have about rape. Stick around, who knows, we just might answer all of it for you. I have a consultant psychiatrist from Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital, Uselu, someone you've seen before, Dr. Oseme Ndidi. Good to have you again.
Thank you so much, Daisy.
So we had her some weeks back, and then there was also another time she came to talk about sexual violence, abuse, domestic violence, and all of this. But today we're going to talk about rape, and I know it's a sad topic. Many people don't want to talk about it. I had a lawyer over and I asked him a question that the more we talk about it, are we giving it much relevance? And he was like, no, you have to talk about it.
Yeah.
Children need to be aware of these things, and you wishing it away doesn't really take it away. It still exists. But what exactly is rape? I know many people say having sexual intercourse without consent, but is there more to it? The lawyer said in the legal angle, rape is usually on a woman. So, but some people are saying there's even a more advanced definition of rape. It could be the anus, the mouth, so what exactly is the newest definition of rape?
Well, I can't really say this is the newest definition of rape, but when you're talking about rape, there are some factors that you need to take into cognizance. One, it is unlawful. Two, there must have been penetration using a sexual object. It may not necessarily be the body, a human body. It may even be an inanimate object or any part of the body where there has been forceful penetration on another victim, either the mouth, the anus, the vagina, without the person's consent. So those are the major things. It's unlawful. There's penetration, there's a sexual object, it may be the finger, it may be the hand, it can be anything. As far as it's an object, a sexual object. And then it must penetrate either the vagina, the mouth, the anus, and then it must be without consent.
Okay, now talking about consent. The first edition of this topic, after the show, we got talking, and some guys were saying, what is consent? That almost every woman will tell you no, even when she's your official girlfriend and you are intimate, she's gonna say no because she doesn't want you to think she's promiscuous. Eventually, she would say yes. So I don't know if women are really like that. If there are a lot of women like that, I mean, no is no, yes is yes. But what is consent?
Well, consent is a legal term. Okay. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but in medicine, when you're talking about consent, one, you must be of age to give consent. That's why we talk about statutory rape, because someone who is less than 18 years cannot give you consent to have sexual intercourse with him or her, as the case may be. So we don't talk about consent when we're dealing with a teenager. That's one. And consent, for you to say somebody has given you consent or has not given you consent, it depends on the individual. The individual, yes is yes and no is no. It's not for you to start to judge this is consent and this is not consent. The person has said no, the person has said yes. So until otherwise proven, you have to take the person's own opinion. I say yes, I say no.
Okay. But if I'm intoxicated and I say yes, is that still consent?
Well, you see, like I said, it's a legal term. Now, if you were intoxicated, you are not in a place to give, you are not qualified to give consent.
Okay.
In other words, you are not, you
Your
don't have
judgment is
the,
even a bit
yes, your judgment
altered.
is impaired. So you cannot give consent and you cannot say no. You cannot say that I said yes or I said no because you are intoxicated at that time.
Okay. So many people will be having issues today. All right. For some people who do not even know what they went through, maybe when they were much younger.
Yes.
I know of someone who had an experience with a relative. She was in primary school when it happened.
Yes.
You know, and she said at some point she forgot about it.
Yeah.
So when she became older, one day it just came like a flashback and everything started pouring and she was really feeling terrible. She
Yes.
felt dirty and all
Yes.
that. But how do you know for those who cannot give a term to what they've been through, is there a difference between rape and sexual assault, sexual abuse, or they're all just sexual abuse? What are the differences and stages to it?
Well, I've told you what rape is. Rape, there has to be penetration with a sexual object. But you can be sexually abused in other ways.
Okay.
Verbally, you can be sexually abused. You can face sexual harassment at work, at your workplace, when people are touching you inordinately. And talking about your friend or the person that you refer to, you find out that more rape occurs before the age of 18. More people, if you look at the statistics of rape, you find out that you have a higher statistics of people who were raped before 18. You find out that 1 in every 4 female has actually had some form of sexual abuse or the other. That's for females. Then for males, it's 1 in 6. You'll be surprised at how high this incidence actually really is. And the reason why this kind of things can occur is because these individuals are vulnerable. The younger ones are vulnerable. Like you said, your friend was very young. She didn't even realize what was actually going on with her until she was older, and then she realizes, oh, I was actually violated as a child. And she begins to experience she begins to relive the experience, probably experiencing the dirt and the guilt and all kinds of emotional feelings that will go along with it.
Okay, so, but we have less cases of reported rape incidences.
Yes.
Even with the exposure and the social media and people talking about it more now, we still have more cases of rape not being reported. So why is it with all the education we have now?
Well, you see, there are many things that we look at as risk factors for rape. I've just told you that the people who are... Sorry about that.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
That's my alarm clock.
Okay.
Okay, so there are many people who, like I said before, rape usually occurs before the age of 18 years. And you see these individuals, they don't really interact with the society, so to say. They are young people, they may not be able to express themselves properly. They may not even tell their parents about it because they don't even understand what is going on. So they don't report it. That's one. 2, you find out that the other risk factors for rape, for instance, people who are house helps, who are people that are helping at home and all that, these people get abused by the people around them. And they are already vulnerable. Now, these vulnerable people, they can't talk out, nobody to talk for them. So that's why these people are more likely not to talk at all. They are dependent, like for instance, the house help who gets raped by her boss. She gets fed by him, she's been housed by him. Anywhere she's going to, the boss takes her there and brings her back. So when or where is she going to have the opportunity to talk about it? So, and then talk about this, this rape culture that we have. People feel there's this stigma associated with rape. So they feel already ashamed that maybe it was their fault that they got raped. And so they don't want to talk about it. And nobody wants to hear that, oh, my daughter or my son got raped. Nobody wants to even talk about it because they think about the lasting implications that, oh, if he wants to get married and they hear he was raped, he's not likely to find a good life partner. He's not going to likely to find a good family. You know, so people tend to keep quiet about it. But that is not the way, because you find out that by keeping quiet about it, we are encouraging the perpetrators to continue in their acts. Because once they've started it, it's an act. They tend to continue it.
Okay, now, what are some of the signs that someone has been raped? Maybe as a parent, so that I'll know how to look out for. God, I don't pray that happens.
Oh dear, oh dear.
And I'm going to be a mother soon.
Oh dear.
You know,
Oh dear.
every woman seems to wish for that. At least in Africa, I know white people are not so particular about having children.
Yeah.
So what are some ways I could know that some signs a rape victim exhibits?
Well, you cannot actually really say pinpoint, okay, these signs are specifically for rape victims. But it would be good for us to know that they have physical signs and they have mental or psychological signs. The physical signs, you may see bruising, you know, depending on how the perpetrator or the victim attacked the person, physical bruising, internal bruising. For little children, they may tell their parents while they are taking their bath that, oh, mommy, this, my pee-pee is paining me, you know. Or you may see blood stains in case of girls. Even guys, you may just see blood stains. For guys, maybe if they were penetrated in their anus, they may not be able to sit properly. Those are some of the physical signs. You see bruising. Now, on the psychological side, the symptoms and signs are numerous, ranging from anger, intermittent burst of anger, to social isolation, to withdrawal, to guilt, to depression. You can, in fact, to anxiety, to post-traumatic stress. There are so many symptoms and signs that they can present with just because they were emotionally traumatized via rape. So many things can occur. So when you start to observe your loved one having some of these unusual behavioral traits, you realize your child says, I don't want to go to school anymore. And then you realize that your child is withdrawn, or your child gets easily angered in the house. Any little thing he's irritated or she's irritated. Those are warning signs that you should say, come, there's something wrong with this, my child. I need to find out more. So that's the time when you should actually draw the child closer and interrogate, investigate, find out what's up with you. Talk to the person's friends. What's happening to your friend? And find out. By the time you're able to identify some things, you'll be surprised that at what you're going to find out.
Okay, as a parent, and you find out what you're actually looking for, what you're asking for, how should parents react? I know of someone who was raped because there was penetration when she was 9. She was a friend of mine when I was in the university, and she said the guy was their neighbor. He was 18, so it happened the first time and he gave her money, and she just forgot about it. The second time when it happened, I think it was more forceful, so she felt a lot of pain, and that made her talk to her mom. So she told the mom that she doesn't like the way Uncle so was playing with her. This was what he did, and now it's pinning her. And the mom was like, you said what? You know, that the mom beat her up mercilessly, then told the dad, then they went to meet the neighbor and beat him up mercilessly. The point was, she was so hurt by the fact that the parents beat her, because, so even when things were happening after she became, she got into secondary school, the father's friend abused her, she was mute about it, she never spoke about it. So how should parents react when they find out situations like this? I know many of us will freak out, but what's the best way?
Well, the truth of the matter is this: these individuals that have been raped, we should realize that they're actually victims. It's a different thing if there was consent. And by the way, like I said before, once you're under the age of 18, there's nothing like consent. Rape is rape. Now, there's this rape culture that tends to be pervasive everywhere, that it's the fault of the person. If she was not where she was, if she was not wearing what she was wearing, if she did not say what she was saying, she wouldn't have gotten raped. So it is her fault. But nobody asks to be raped. Nobody says, oh, please come and rape me. Nobody says that. It is something that has occurred and it is a negative thing. So it is wrong for you to harass or further punish the individual who has been the victim. Rather, if you as a parent discover that such a thing has happened, one, there are two ways you need to go about it. Like the medical way, you need to take the child for medical examination because there are tests that need to be done. Tests for sexually transmitted diseases, tests for pregnancy, tests for even structural defects that may have occurred via the forceful penetration. So you need to take this child for medical evaluation. Then you definitely need to involve the services of the police or the legal practitioner, as the case may be, because these perpetrators will continue. Like you said, your friend did it, they did it to her the first time, and then the guy had the effrontery to still do it again a second time. And he probably would have still continued if maybe she did not say it out, you understand? So we need to curb it. And so therefore we teach people now that you should break silence. That's the word we say, break silence. Don't just keep quiet when somebody has raped you. You need to talk about it. And you as a parent, you need to put in all efforts to ensure that this patient or this victim, yes, there's justice for this person, and that the emotional and mental issues associated with it are properly handled.
Okay, now, so for people who are raped, who should they call first? I also asked the lawyer this question. Should they call their doctor first? Should they call the police first? Or should they call their lawyer?
I don't know what the lawyer said, but in westernized countries, we see that most of the time the police comes in first. And then the police takes you, not to the police station, but takes you to the doctors. But here in Nigeria, I would advise, go seek medical help first, because the earlier the treatment is instituted, the better the outcome. And you find out that you can institute things to prevent pregnancy within a few hours. You can also prevent sexually transmitted diseases within a few hours. And then if there are other complications, you can also stem it quickly within a few hours before you now involve the police, because the legal process can actually be a long one in this environment. So you need to seek the doctor first.
Okay. Now for victims who are reluctant to seek help and support, now, like the person I talked about that was abused when she was younger, she grew up and realized, okay, I was abused and it wasn't just once. Now I know what that was. And she started acting all funny. She didn't want to date nobody. She didn't want no guy coming near her. One would assume, it don't happen, say now, move on and all that. And even when it was so hard for her to say why she was acting up. So there are other victims who are going to be like that. They don't want to get any form of help. They don't want to say nothing about it. But how can we make sure that they get support and help?
Now, the truth of the matter is this. Maybe the reason why she is not forthcoming with this, with talking out or talking about it, is probably because of the stigma and the emotional trauma she's already going through. And she's worried about how you are going to perceive her, how you're going to look at her afterwards. So if by chance you actually get to find out that this is why, and this is why your friend is acting out, or this is why this person is acting out, and the person doesn't give you an opportunity to actually help, then you can actually refer the person to independent agencies. We have some rape crisis centers here in Nigeria. There's one in Lagos called Mirabel Center. That particular agency is an NGO specifically to address victims of rape. But that aside, you also have units in some other agencies like the women's lawyer, the FIBA, FIDA. They have some units that actually investigate and help victims of rape. Also, women of Ministry of Women's Affairs, I think, also have a way of
problem,
helping,
yeah.
yes, these persons who have been victims of rape. So even if you cannot be of help to them, you can refer them to these agencies, because these agencies now serve as people they don't know, because they may feel they can trust people they don't know better than people that they know, knowing that those people don't know them, so are probably not going to even know them up to their houses and probably stigmatize them more. So I think that's one of the ways you can actually really help those people.
Okay, I've read novels though. I haven't been through a law court where a rape victim was interrogated, but I've read books. I love novels. And in some of them you hear during the cross-examination, you hear cases of the lawyer asking history of sexual, how many sexual partners have you had before you were raped, after you were raped. They make it seem like the victim is promiscuous.
Yes.
And there are other ways. What were you wearing? Where were you? Why were you out at this time? What were you doing? And all of this. So when women wish to embrace their sexiness and wish to express their sexiness, is it so bad? We go to the pool and we wear a one-piece swim trunk, two-piece something small, and all of those. Is it so bad? Cleavage out and all those?
You know, one thing I have to say is this, that we should realize is that man on his own is a sexual being. Now, the way individuals decide to express their sexiness, because everybody does one way or the other, varies. Now, you cannot start victimizing people for wanting to express their sexiness. We're not saying that you should expose yourself inordinately to people all around, because even exposure is actually a criminal offense. Yes, but so you cannot tell somebody don't express your sexiness, because everybody does. The way you wear your hair, the way you wear your clothes, the way you wear your shoes, it's your own way of expressing yourself. I think we should stop focusing on how people express their sexiness and start focusing on the perpetrators, because that is where the stigma has come up from. You keep on keeping your focus on the victim rather than on the perpetrator. Leave the victim alone. The victim did not do anything but say no. Look at the perpetrator and say, why did you go ahead when the person said no? Because he's the one that committed the crime. You cannot say that because somebody is wearing jewelry, the person has told the armed robber on the road, come and rob me.
Sure.
So I think that we need, part of the prevention strategies for rape and rape victims is that the society needs to begin to change its attitudes towards rape victims. Stop seeing them as the cause of the problem and start seeing them as victims that need to be helped. And see rape as a situation that needs to be prevented. And perpetrators need to face the book. They need to.
Okay. All right, we're going to go on a break quickly, a psychiatrist's perspective on rape, and there's still a few more questions I would like to ask. But amongst the pictures that I was scrolling on the TV, there was this picture that had how not to get raped, and okay, don't get raped. So there was the mark on this, remove the get and remove the ed, and just say don't rape. So we should focus more on don't rape than how to not get raped. But we're still going to ask that question though, so that for those who will still want to prevent themselves, they should also have a few tips on their fingertips. But what ways can women take? Because according to the statistics, we have more women getting raped than men, and we have more underage women being victims of this terrible crime. So what can women do to prevent themselves from getting raped?
Well, one thing we have to understand is that the individuals who perpetrate rape, you find that some of them are into use of drugs and alcohol. You know, they have a lifestyle that is antisocial in a way. So if you as an individual are able to identify that this person has an antisocial behavior, then you should keep away from such persons. Keep away from places that have antisocial behaviors, because that's where you're more likely to have problems. For instance, some of us, if they tell you that the road to Ekosodi on this left road, this left side, is where the armed robbers usually wait for people, and there's another alternative route to pass in. So you rather pass the alternative route than pass the way that you're likely going to have problems with. So that's what we do. Look out for people who have antisocial behaviors. They drink a lot, they have previous history of being sexually abusive. Then you keep away from such persons, and then I think you go along. And you on your own, avoid using all those substances, because sexual abuse usually goes very strongly with substance use. For instance, when you are highly intoxicated and you are not in control of yourself, people are more likely to take advantage of you. So if you keep away from those substances, you are less likely to be harassed or assaulted.
Okay. Now, a person, a guy who's been abused repeatedly, a lot of rape victims usually have experienced it more than once, by the same person or even different people. Now, for guys who have been abused by another guy repeatedly, can the victim become gay from that experience?
Well, when you're talking about homosexuality, which is, by the way, a crime in Nigeria.
Yes, it is.
It'll be inappropriate for you to equate homosexuality with rape, so to say, because when an individual decides that he wants to be a homosexual, as the case may be, it is his attitude, that becomes his own sexual orientation, his preferred way of obtaining sexual pleasure. Now, rape is not a way of getting sexual pleasure. So you can't actually say that, oh, because he was raped, then he became gay, or he becomes gay, as the case may be. So I can't really say you will, but either which way, you find out that you have a higher representation of people who have been sexually assaulted being gay.
Okay. Now, this calls for further study. Okay, now, a rape victim comes to you as a doctor, and I know these doctors, they are just like priests. Doctor-patient confidentiality, or that's how they call it, so you don't ever reveal what's discussed, even if I'm the mother of this patient. So if a rapist comes to you as a consultant, a psychiatrist, and says, I rape people, I need help, would you assist that person?
Oh, you see, it is my duty to help anyone who comes to me with a medical problem. Now, his problem is not necessarily that he rapes people per se, but that he's trying to stop raping people and he's having problems doing it. Now, such a person would actually require psychotherapy if he's having issues with stopping a habit and he can't stop it, because it's like raping people has now become a habit for him, so he wants to break it. Now, people who have habit problems, we help. They go through psychotherapy sessions. So under such circumstance, obviously the person wants to stop, so we do a lot of investigations, psychological investigations into him and his life, his past life and all that, and find out how he got to where he is and what are the things that are making him or perpetuating the situation in his life, and then help him to find coping strategies, ways to stop such a habit. And if they need help, and we help them.
Oh, no, this is the point where I say, thank God I'm not a doctor. No. No. My God. Okay. So we're going to be rounding up right now. I'll ask you to say any other thing you want to say on this topic before we go.
Well, what I would really like to say about rape is this. I will still repeat what I said before. These individuals who have been raped are actually victims. We should stop looking at them as it is their fault. They should not be stigmatized. Rather, they should be empathy towards these people. And then we as a society, as a country, we need to exact and enact laws, stringent laws against these perpetrators of rape, such that people will know that there's a consequence for whatever I'm about to do. And if that would stop them, or should I say disabuse their minds from perpetrating such an act, then all the better.
All right, thank you so much. Now, for all those of you watching, they say most ladies, before they are 18, they've already started indulging in one form of sexual activity or the other. You all know, if that lady decides to raise an alarm, you will so go in for it. So please leave underage girls alone and go for adults that can decide, and leave people who are high, and they can still accuse you, because in the eyes of the law, they couldn't have made a sensible decision in that state. So you, in your clear sense, you're going for it. And for everyone who passes judgment out there, looking at someone who's been abused and say, okay, when they were raping you, did you scream? Did you scratch him? Did you fight back? You know, we say all sorts of things when we hear cases like this. People have different ways they react to situations of shock. Now, you could just go into a surprise mood and you don't act, you're shocked, and some others can raise alarm and fight and scratch and do all that. That's irrelevant how the person reacted. The point is, rape is a crime. It's a devastating one that the victim suffers, the relatives of the victims also suffer, and parents also, you need to be on the lookout for your children. Open your eyes and shine them very well. I'm Daisy Obaisi. I want to thank you so much for staying with us in today's edition of the show. I'll be back here next week with another social issue that needs to be talked about. Bye.